This is an Electrolux Silverado. I would say that this machine was probably made somewhere around 1983. If you are a loyal follower of the channel, you may have seen my other video of a Silverado. However, that is not the same machine. That vacuum I sold a few years ago, and this one I picked up just a couple months ago. As far as I know, there were a couple different versions of the Silverado. The earliest one had a different style carrying handle than the one that's on this machine. And I also have heard that the later model had a slightly different motor. So I'm not exactly sure what revision of Silverado this machine is. I'm not even sure if this would have been the model to have the square shaped power nozzle. Either that or it would have come with the L-shaped PN6, I think. At least I think the later one was a PN6. This one right here is a PN4, so I think I'm actually thinking of the PN5. So this might have originally come with a PN5 because I don't think this is the original model of Silverado, but I can't be completely sure. I am not an Electrolux expert. I just generally know roughly when they were made. I don't know exactly. You can see that it's a replacement aftermarket dusting brush, but it works just fine. I do have a floor tool as well as a crevice tool, both genuine Electrolux, but not original to this machine. Now this machine specifically I got from one of my friend's vacuum stores, and the motor had been serviced in it, and at one point it was being used as a loaner vacuum. And for a while I've been wanting another Electrolux, so when this one was up for grabs I thought I would take it. And then the power nozzle is basically a bash of parts just to make a complete power nozzle. As far as the power nozzle is concerned, it works just fine. I also have a replacement genuine hose for it, and I also am using aftermarket Electrolux C HEPA bags in it, which work just fine. Even with all the crap that I picked up with this machine, the bag compartment stays clean, which I like. I usually use my filter queen to clean out other vacuums, but it's just so messy to empty, so lately I've been using this Electrolux instead. Other than that, it's a great machine. I enjoy using Electroluxes. Well, I think a lot of the newer ones might be a little more maneuverable and user-friendly and lighter. These ones tend to last longer, which is why I like the old metal body Electroluxes. And I like the motors in them. I think the motors are a lot pleasant to the ear, at least in comparison to some of the later model Electroluxes and Arises that used cheaper motors in them. But it's a very nice vacuum. You know, it's not the most powerful vacuum, but it's reliable, it's sturdy, and it gets the job done. I do think the later model Electrolux power nozzles after this clean a little better, but this one is just fine for what I use it for. Electroluxes, in my opinion, were always kind of the pinnacle of vacuum design when it came to canisters, at least for all of the time before we got German canisters on the market like Miele and Sibo. And yeah, those have probably surpassed Electrolux by now in design, but I think for what they were, Electrolux was always, for the most part, one of the best canisters you could buy for the money. And heck, I still know people who use them on a daily basis. I have a neighbor down the street, an old neighbor of mine who still has a Marquee, and they've been using it for almost 35 years now. And only like 2 years ago did it ever get any major work done on it. So that just goes to show you how well made these machines are. And yeah, they're not the best for allergies. Like, this vacuum has no post-motor filter, so it does not filter carbon dust. But I found with as long as you use the HEPA bags, the filtration doesn't really bother me. As far as actual dust goes, it's pretty much filtering most of the dust. It's really just the carbon dust that it's not filtering. And, you know, frankly, for me, doesn't really bother me. If I really was that sensitive to dust, I probably shouldn't have this many vacuums in my apartment. As far as like all the dust that's sitting inside all of these machines right now. So for me, just using the HEPA bag is just fine for filtration. If you have sensitivity to dust, I would probably recommend something else, but I don't think these are really that bad for filtration. Most of the filtering is done by the bag anyway. Anyway, we'll give this a quick run. It runs very smooth. As I said, this one has had both the canister and power nozzle motors done over, so it's very nice to use. Wheels got a little bit of squeaking, so they probably could use a little bit of oil. I don't think the bag check indicator still works, but we can maybe try to see if we can get it to work. Yeah, probably not. Oh well. What do you expect for a 40-year-old vacuum? Let's get the cord back in. So yeah, as you can see, it runs very nicely. Pretty much as nice as you're gonna get for a 40-year-old Electrolux. That's in good enough shape, but has definitely been well used still. Cord retractor goes in pretty smooth, so I'm gonna guess that was done over too when the motor was serviced. Yeah, I mean, Electroluxes are like Kirby's in the sense you can kind of pretty much rebuild them and rebuild them and rebuild them constantly as long as you have the parts on hand. I can imagine that eventually, probably within the next 10 years or so, parts for these machines are going to get increasingly hard to find as they go up in there in age. And Aris is a company, I don't even know how much longer they're going to last as far as making vacuums, because they're not even really making their own vacuum cleaners anymore. Nationwide is making their machines for them in China now. Kind of sad, but at the end of the day, I anticipated that coming, because in the eyes of a modern consumer, the vacuums are pretty outdated, as good as I think the vacuums are. So with that being said, that is my Electrolux Silverado, and I hope you enjoyed the video.